What does it take to be a good teacher?
Well, there's two teachers in the room, so good listener would be number one. Always two teachers in the room. And when I wrote a memoir with Kirsty McClelland-Day, as a writer from Calgary, I worked with her husband at Channels 2 and 7, CFAC Television. And Kirsty was always after me to write a book, and I understood almost innately that I was too young to write a book, but I did it anyway for Kirsty. But I told Kirsty one of the great lessons of my life was in understanding conversation. Two of the best writers ever, Shakespeare and Cervantes. One, Cervantes, the novelist from Spain. The other is, of course, the dramatist from the UK. Both of them, all the wisdom is discovered in conversation. What I told Kirsty, the greatest lesson for me is, okay, Don Cherry and I, we're out there, you kids wear your poppies, you kids take your hats off during the O Canada. We're always trying to teach, Don especially, he's trying to teach honor and good, and before you know it, we're in trouble with the Finnish consulate or the province of Quebec, or somehow we've screwed it up again, and so we go back to our hotel room and we pour a beer, or we sit over morning coffee and we try to figure out, how did that go so wrong? What could we have done better? And then the genius comes out. Don Cherry's life on the road, Don Cherry's coaching Bobby Orr, my studying ethics all my life because I had wanted to be a teacher and because I'm a broadcaster. And I said if we could only have taped those talks and played them, we'd have had a really, really good book. But it was impossible to recreate. But I know that's where wisdom is found, is in that conversation. Louis Lapham was the editor of Harper's Magazine, and he would get all these manuscripts, all these submissions to have a story put in Harper's, and he always said, Riaz, if I do not see the word I, it goes right in the garbage. I have to hear the first person. So that's the secret of Don's success, is he reveals what he thinks. And then me as anchor, I'm in a bit of a quandary because I'm the host. I want my guest to be the star. So it's really important not to steal Don's moment in the sun. But at the same time, as we've evolved, I understood that you need to hear I out of me too. Because if you don't hear I in whomever it is you're reading, listening to, or watching, it's not authentic. Another great experience for me was getting ready for the Olympics. I was asked by Claire Carver-Dias, who is a synchronized swimmer, to do a little something for a video she was putting together. And then I heard her story, and she wrote a story about being at the Olympic Games in 2000 in Australia, and she said, if you saw me on television, the camera went right in on me just before our competition. And I had these, Bambi eyes. I was a kid. I was naive. I was nervous. And it all looked big. There was 10,000 people in the pool area. There were millions watching on television. And that's the snapshot. So that's the selfie. But if you went through my eyes and into the network of people behind me, then you'd get to the bottom of everything. You'd understand that I had these coaches. I had this one of my colleagues one night when I was sitting in a stairwell at a practice facility, devastated, thinking I cannot go on. This colleague actually sat down beside me on the stairwell and said, no, Claire, you can do it, and here's why. And it's not always right to say perk up. Sometimes you just need to be a listener. But her understanding of the web of behind you, instead of that, we're in the selfie generation right now where everything is sort of superficial and the impression you get is the exterior. I just loved her understanding to go way deeper, to get past the superficial. Riaz, in every interview, that's my aim is, okay, I need to trigger you in some way to feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable. Well, I had wicked anxiety as a youngster, and I've learned my triggers. Get out of yourself, stop thinking, how do I look, how smart will I be, and start getting into why are we really here. Marina Zueva, she's a Russian choreographer and skating instructor, and she always said, don't worry about the judges or the audience, they're just happy for a night not at the office. And that's a good way to put it. Just realize they want a night away from the office and the pressure, and try to make their day. Get into that mode. Just think about them instead of yourself. Hard to do, but if the more time you spend in the mirror, the more time you spend on your own thinking and thoughts, the worse it'll be. If you start to remember why you wanted to do this in the first place, is to bring a little joy or a laugh or a bit of education to the viewer, it's much, much easier. So that's how I've coped. It's not easy though, Riaz. I always say, most people in broadcasting like to kid, and they are just kidding, but they say, never worked a day in my life. And I don't know how you feel, but I feel like I've never had 1 second off in my life, because I'm sitting here doing this, but in the back of my mind, I'm agonizing over how I'm going to shape Saturday night's opening. You know, what am I going to say when I get on camera? Because I've done it for 32 years. We all know it's a big game and there's superstars and all that. So I'm always feeling this pressure to come up with something for the next show that never goes away. It just sits right there on your shoulders for your life. Wayne Heinrich moved to Red Deer, Alberta. He'd been a DJ in Lethbridge, and he was the program director and the man about town, had a band that played all the weddings, just a great entertainer. And he moved to our city when I was young and vulnerable and susceptible, and he taught me a lesson about letting the guest be the star. I had interviewed a guy that phoned in to win junior hockey tickets on the radio. And I was the glib, hotshot DJ having fun with my listener and all the witticisms, and that was that. And Wayne pulled me into the office and he says, you know, Ron, he said, it was okay. He says, but this guy was good enough to listen to the radio station. He was excited enough to phone the radio station to try to win the tickets. It would have been so much better if you let him shine, if you would have made him the glib guy with the most. And I never forgot it. He taught me two things. He taught me that, to let your guest be the star, and he taught me that all communication is one-to-one. It's not you, me, and 10 million people watching. It's me and you and one viewer, one reader, one listener. Simplify, because then you become a companion. You become a companion. You're now dealing with a conversation with intimacy, and that's the secret. Over the history of broadcasting, mistakes have been made time and again in programming where, you know, the Drake format was a legendary radio format when I was young, and that was essentially 3 record sweeps, and it was the idea of more rock, less talk. But that doesn't work. Radio depends a little bit on the personality. It depends on the conversation that you have with your guests. It really is a friendship that you're nurturing. And he taught me that. He taught me always speak one-to-one. Don't think in terms of, hi, everybody, welcome to, hello, Canada. It's not that. It's the viewer. It's you and me. So he's the conversation that I had at the absolute right time in my life that opened the keys to having said that, my kingdom was then, not now. I didn't need to get to Hockey Night in Canada. I didn't need to go anywhere to feel the same rush, the same joy of when you're opening the day in Red Deer and you say it's going to be 30 degrees with nothing but blue skies, and here's a song that I happen to love and I think you will too. You've made someone's day. The gift of doing it is that, simply that, doing it. It's not at the level, and it's not with any, Bruce Springsteen can sure speak to it. He talks a lot about losing Clarence and just that, how they made one another stronger. Friendships, huge. The joy of playing is huge, but it's played out at every level. It's got nothing to do with how well known you become.